Good evening, and welcome to the Electronic Town Hall of Central Virginia Electric Cooperative. This is our first electronic town hall we've held here at Central Virginia. We're using the same technology that we did at our annual meeting. We want to welcome you and thank you for attending. We'll start tonight with a short presentation, then we'll follow it up with a question and answer period. If you have questions at any time during the broadcast, you have multiple ways you can enter them. One is on the live stream chat box, where you can enter the message and we'll see it here at the office. Another option, if you're on Facebook, is to post a message to Facebook or a question and we'll see it there. Finally, you can email to Greg Kelly, our Member Services Manager, at gkelly@mycvec.com, and he'll be able to see that and pass the message along as well. We'll stay no longer than an hour tonight, depending on how many questions we have. And if we don't have as many questions, we may terminate a little earlier. With that, let's get underway and talk a little bit about what's going on at the co-op. At the end of all this, we'll also have the broadcast online and archived, should anyone want to watch it later or tell friends about it and have them watch it. Tonight we want to talk a little bit about strategic planning at Central Virginia Electric Co-op and what a couple of our primary goals are for this year. We use strategic planning to do most of our framework for all business decisions at Central Virginia Electric Co-op. We first began using strategic plans back in 1992. Every 2 to 3 years we gather a lot of data from the economy, from reliability at Central Virginia Electric Co-op, from our industry. We use employee surveys, member surveys. This past year we used member focus groups for the first time. So we gathered a lot of information and brought that together with the ideas and opinions of our employees and members as well. And we went to a 3-day meeting with our board of directors. After going through the status of the co-op, where we stood presently in the industry, and looking at what our opportunities were, the board of directors set 5 goals out for the co-op for the next 3 years. We took those goals back to our employees and put together task forces. We had great participation, and we always do on these strategic plans. Over half of the employees participated on at least a task force to put together a plan of action to meet the goals that the directors had set. Tonight I want to talk about the 2 primary goals out of those 5. The first one is increased member satisfaction. We are a not-for-profit, member-owned electric cooperative. The only reason that we have our jobs and that we're here is to provide a high level of service to our members at a reasonable price. So we want to make sure we're doing everything we can to meet their expectations. Traditionally, we've done very well at Central Virginia in terms of member surveys. We score out higher than average among co-ops in the state and across the nation. And we're happy with that. And we've done a good job over the years. But we've set very high goals for the coming years. We want to be among the nation's leaders. We want to not only meet the expectations you have, but exceed them to a point that puts us among the nation's leaders. To do that, there are 3 primary areas that we'll be looking at. The first is we want to control rates. We know that our rates were much lower in the past decades, and because of power supply challenges primarily, those costs have gone up. We want to do everything in our power to control the other portions of the costs and keep our rates as competitive as possible. Presently, we're a little below average in the state. We intend to be there and try to even move lower, while at the same time having some new investments in some areas that we think are important to increase member satisfaction. The second thing we'll look at are the choices and options we give our members. We want to make sure that our diverse membership base gets all of its needs met, whether you want higher technology, more remote access, or just the traditional services that we've always had. We've added some new technology capabilities recently. We have eBiz. If you go online and sign up, you can monitor the usage on your own account, even down to the day. You can make payments online. We have a number of payment methods, including credit card payments where we don't charge a fee. That's very rare among electric utilities and among electric co-ops. We have prepaid metering that we added this year that we're very excited about for those who want to pay ahead of time, avoid the need for security deposits, manage their budget a little better and choose when they want to pay. If they want to pay in 4 increments during a month instead of 1. There are a lot of options by using prepay, and if you have any interest, we would encourage you to contact the cooperative and talk to a member service representative and see if that program is right for you. We also have a new website that we'll soon be introducing, and we're working on a app for phones and tablets that'll be out soon that will allow you to report outages and monitor the progress we're making on restoration of service from the app. So we're looking for new programs, we're looking for ways to meet the needs of members that expands what we already have in terms of service. The final thing that we want to look at is reliability, and I'd like to talk a little more about that. Because the second major goal we had was to improve our distribution, delivery, and reliability. We had unusually high outage hours in 2012 and 2013 due to some unusual weather events. We had the derecho, we had a spring snowstorm last year, we had the remnants of Hurricane Sandy. We've just had a very difficult several years in terms of major storm events. If you exclude those major events from our outage hours, we've actually been trending in a positive direction. We've had reduced outage hours over the last 4 years that have slowly shown an improvement in reliability and a decrease in the number of minutes the average consumer is out of power. But we're not happy with that slow improvement. We've set high goals out of this strategic plan. We want to again be one of the leaders in this area. So there are 3 major steps that we'll look at to improve reliability. The first is to limit the number of outages that occur. The second is for each outage that does occur to limit the impact and not have any more members out than are necessary. And then the final point is to get the lights restored and everybody back in service as soon as possible. Let me talk a little bit about how we're going to handle each of those. In terms of decreasing the number of outages, the biggest investment we can make is an improved and expanded right-of-way program. And we have plans for that. We intend to look at the cycles that we go on for cutting our right-of-way. Presently, we're on a 5-year cycle to go around and cut everything in the right-of-way at the ground level. And we're on about a 20-year cycle for what we call side trimming, the limbs that grow in from the side from trees that are off the right-of-way. We're looking at reducing that side trimming cycle significantly. And we're looking at paying a lot more attention to trees that are outside of our right-of-way that are threatening to our lines. We call these danger trees. Those can be trees that are leaning toward our line. They can have disease and signs that they're weakening and may be blown over or fall on the line in a storm. Those trees we're identifying and going by and cutting before they can create problems for us. That's a significant change for us. We have added crews to do that this year, and we will be for the next several years as we go throughout our 5,000 miles of line looking for opportunities to prevent outages before they occur. We're also looking for increased efficiency in our right-of-way and vegetation management methods. We know costs are going up. We know we'll have to make a larger investment to do some of these things and have expanded programs. So we're trying to find efficiency in order to manage those costs and not have any more increases than necessary. We also want to invest in distribution line improvements. You may have been around the system recently and seen either contractors or our crews rebuilding some of our overhead lines. We have a normal cycle of about 30 to 35 years when we'll rebuild lines just due to age. We also will rebuild them when loads increase significantly and we're unable to carry the current through the line that's necessary to meet the needs of the members. We've made some investments in improving the areas as well that are very aged now that may not have as much load, but maybe have older poles or older conductors that have lines that are a little easier to damage and take a little longer to fix. We want to replace those and build a system stronger and more reliable. We've expanded the use of fuses on taps and of sectionalizing. That's engineering lingo, and let me spend just a minute to explain what that is. When we have a main three-phase line that goes down a major highway, as we go off into the various hollows and into subdivisions, we have a single-phase line often that sometimes in the past, if a tree fell on that single-phase line, it would take out the main line. We're trying now to go through our entire system and make sure that every tap has a fuse on it. And if we have a problem on one of those taps, it will only affect the tap and not take out the main line. The sectionalizing is the use of circuit breakers and reclosers to limit the number of people who are out of power, again, should there be an outage. That's requiring some additional investment, but it will help us in terms of the number of people who are impacted when we do have a storm pass through an area. Finally, we've added some additional maintenance personnel. In each division last year, we added one serviceman whose primary role is to provide preventive maintenance. They'll be monitoring whenever we have blinks on lines. They'll be reviewing needs for those danger trees to be cut. They'll be handling the preventive maintenance that we haven't always done in the past, and we've decided is an absolute critical part of meeting the goal of reducing outages and outage hours significantly. Finally, we have our reliability department that we created several years ago. Their focus has helped us start driving down these outages. They review every outage to determine, did we do the best we could to handle that? Did we have a way we could have eliminated the outage altogether? Could we have had less people affected? And finally, would there have been a way to restore service quicker? So every outage gets a close review, and we hope to learn from it, and we hope to improve. Our goal is to be among the best in reliability. Then I have one more topic I'd like to discuss that does impact the cost control on the bills, and that's power supply. Power supply represents over 60% of your total bill. As an electric cooperative, we make very little of our energy, and we buy most of it. It's something we have to watch closely because it has such a major impact on the bills. Traditionally, we've had a single contract for most of our power or all of our power, and it's usually come from a large utility. Often, those were extended contracts with fixed costs. Those options are no longer available in today's market. And so next year, we'll be changing, and in June of next year, we will go entirely on purchases that we've made at Central Virginia through a number of contracts with some output of plants involved as well. When we're out in those markets and trying to buy electricity, the markets are very challenging. Electricity is a very volatile product in terms of pricing. The price for electricity can move from a penny a kilowatt hour to $1 a kilowatt hour on the live market within the same year. There is no shelf life and no storage for electricity. That tends to exacerbate the problem of the volatility in pricing. It's a tough market. We have taken steps to diversify our mix of contracts and assets and help manage that volatility to provide the best cost for members. I just mentioned that we have some assets, and that's one of our approaches. A portion of our needs we want to come out of plants that we either own or that we own the output of for some period of time. Presently, we have an interest in the Fremont Energy Center in Ohio, in Fremont, Ohio, where we get about 27 megawatts of capacity and energy out of. We have output from the Blue Creek Wind Project, also in Ohio, where we have a partnership, and we get about 8 megawatts of wind power out of that project. Then finally, we have our local Rockfish Hydro. It's a small, older hydro, but provides relatively inexpensive energy when we can get enough water in the Rockfish River. For the rest of our energy, we use a planned portfolio development where we have contract purchases of different lengths, different amounts of energy. Some of it's seasonal, some of it's around the clock. It's a different mix that we use to help diversify our purchases. Some of those contracts go as long as into 2025. We have over 40% of our energy already purchased for the year 2020 and 2021. We diversify that so that we try not to hit the market at the very lowest point or the very highest point. And we remove that volatility so that we don't see significant increases or decreases at one time. We also spend a lot of time looking for alternative energy sources. We like alternative energy sources that meet the needs of our members and that are reasonably priced. Presently, we're looking at several solar projects, and we're reviewing a landfill gas project, in addition to the wind we already have. So we like to continuously keep our eye out for the best mix for our members. And we're trying to do that in a way that keeps our price as reasonable as possible. One of the challenges that comes with power supply is the way the markets change. We are part of what is called the PJM Regional Transmission System. It's a market that extends from New Jersey through Pennsylvania and up into Michigan, over into Ohio, and down through Virginia and West Virginia. In that region, the markets are created by that regional transmission organization. The original intent for that organization to be set up was to create free markets that would drive prices down. It had a good intent. So far, the results have not been as positive. Costs for Central Virginia Electric Cooperative customers have gone up. And the most recent example of that is a new capacity market they added last year. That capacity market has forced our PCA to go up as much as a penny a kilowatt hour and a little more this year. And yet, we get no benefits from it. It's a difficult concept to understand on why we have these markets that are created. Hopefully in the long term, we'll have some benefit. But that has had a major impact, and it's something we try to manage. So power supply is one more place that we try to control costs. But we've had pretty good luck outside of that with cost control, and that's helped us keep our rates competitive. Quickly, let me look back at the three goals, or the three topics we talked about. Member satisfaction, we have a goal of being among the best in the nation. And we've been pretty good. We're driving that even higher. Reliability, we've been trending down, but we expect to be much better in the next several years. And power supply, we're moving to a different approach next year. It's a challenging market, but we believe we have a good plan to get the best possible results. Overall, we want to set high goals. We want to be one of the leaders among the nation's co-ops. We're fortunate. We have a very well-trained and highly skilled staff, and we have a dedicated board of directors that help us set the goals and oversee the operation of the co-op. Working together, we expect to not only meet but exceed the expectations of our members. At the strategic plan this year, we finished the session by looking at our vision statement, and we reaffirmed that it is exactly what we want to do. Our vision statement at Central Virginia Electric Co-op says that working together, we want to improve the quality of your life in a quietly impressive way. Thank you for listening, and I'll be glad to look at some of the questions we have. We've had several come in. First one I see is there's a question about the project going on over near Martin Store in Nelson County. We have a significant construction project going on in that area. We have increased loading that has required that we build a new distribution line from the Martin Store substation up to the Valleymont Shopping Center and Stony Creek subdivision area. To build that second line, we want to build on the same poles that were there, except that those poles now must be higher in order to carry a separate set of wires. So we're replacing all of the poles from Martin Store to the area where that new circuit will stop at the shopping center. Each of those poles will have 2 distribution circuits, and some of the poles just outside of the substation also carry our transmission line as well. So you may see some new steel poles that give us the height and the strength to carry all 3, the 2 distribution lines and the transmission line. And then all the way along that right-of-way along Route 151, you'll see taller poles that will be carrying 2 circuits up to the point where we can split the load off and make sure we provide reliable service for all of our members over in that area. So that's a significant project. I see a question about postcards that we recently sent. We've started a new program as part of our member satisfaction to try to alert members whenever we're doing work in your area. That may be when we have contractors who are constructing a new line, or our employees, such as the line we just talked about over at Martin Store, who will be working in the area building a project. We also are trying to send postcards to give another reminder when we're performing right-of-way maintenance in the area. So if you get a postcard from Central Virginia Electric Co-op, it has important information on it. Please make sure to read it. We're trying to use those opportunities to keep our members informed of the projects going on in their area. We have a question about why the costs have gone up recently on our PCA. The PCA on your bill stands for the Power Cost Adjustment. And this is a good question because that seems to go up and down and sometimes doesn't track with other things going on. It may be hard to understand. Let me go back to that point I made about power supply. The capacity market that was created in PJM was started several years ago and was had fairly little impact the first few years. But those costs have gone up in 2014. That has added about a penny per kilowatt hour to that power cost adjustment. It will be that way for about a year. It'll drop just slightly. Then it'll go back up, and there are some concerns that it could go up another half a penny to a penny in the next 4 or 5 years due to some new changes in that market. The Central Virginia Electric Co-op participates where it can in helping to provide input to the rule makers who set those new markets. But in the meantime, we have no choice but to buy the capacity that is required in order for us to stay in that regional transmission organization. And then those costs are passed through that PCA. So that's an unfortunate new market that has very little benefit for us, but additional costs. And it's affecting other people in that wide region. A number of power companies have started contacting regulators and elected officials to ask about ways that they could have a review of how those markets are formed. But in the meantime, unfortunately, we have the costs and they're passed through to members. If there are any other questions, I'll be glad to take them. We have, I see a number of people online. I think we've handled the ones that have come in so far. If we don't have any in the next couple of minutes, we may wrap this up for now and schedule another town hall in the future. I will say again, I appreciate the people who've come online to watch. We have held these previously by going around and holding them in local communities, but they're not always at a good time for people. They're not easy to get to, perhaps. We thought that having an electronic town hall would give a broader spectrum of members the ability to participate. Thank you for watching. We'll have this online soon, and have a great evening.